Sean Diddy Combs faces a slew of new allegations, 120 new alleged victims.
Will Smith claps back at memes of him and Sean Diddy Combs and speaks out for the first time about his history with the music mogul.
No one saw this coming. Not Hollywood, not the media, not even the fans. Will Smith, the shining symbol of charm and success,
is one of the biggest stars on the planet. He is a multiple Grammy Award winner and multiple Academy and Golden Globe Award nominee. Please welcome the one, the only, Will Smith!
Now stands face to face with his former friend, P. Diddy, in a courtroom battle that could shatter the glittering walls of the entertainment world. Secrets long buried under fame and fortune are beginning to surface, threatening to ruin reputations and destroy legacies. What dark truths turned friendship into fear and loyalty into betrayal? As the world holds its breath, the shocking truth is finally breaking free. The shocking divide between friends. No one could have imagined that two of the biggest stars in Hollywood would stand on opposite sides of a courtroom, locked in a battle that would shake the entire entertainment world. Will Smith and Sean Diddy Combs, once seen laughing together at exclusive parties, raising glasses in grand mansions, surrounded by flashing lights and whispered secrets, are now bitter adversaries in a fight that has exposed the hidden darkness beneath fame and fortune. This was not just another celebrity lawsuit or scandalous rumor. It was the opening of a deep wound that revealed the dangerous games played behind closed doors in the music and film industry. Will Smith, the beloved actor known for his charm and family image, shocked the world when he stepped into a federal courtroom to testify against his former friend. The room fell into heavy silence as he prepared to reveal truths that could destroy Diddy's empire forever. For years, Will Smith had been silent, carrying a burden that threatened not only his reputation, but the safety of his family. Behind the smiling photos and award-winning performances was a man trapped in fear, knowing that one wrong move could cost him everything he valued. What drove him to finally speak out? What hidden terror made him risk his entire career? This chapter of betrayal and manipulation was about to begin, and nothing in Hollywood would ever be the same again. The rise and fall of a Hollywood bond. There was a time when Will Smith and Diddy were more than just stars. They were friends bonded by fame, power, and endless possibilities. The world saw them side by side at glamorous events.
Now, I know to do what we do, you got to be able to take abuse. You got to be able to have people talk crazy about you. In this business, you got to be able to have people disrespecting you.
Sipping the finest drinks, laughing freely, and posing for flashing cameras as if nothing could ever shake their connection. Hollywood parties, music launches, private dinners, they shared it all. Diddy opened doors for Smith in the music industry, and Smith gave Diddy access to movie circles. It seemed like a perfect friendship built on mutual success. But behind the sparkling lights and loud music, something far more dangerous was unfolding, something that even Will Smith didn't see coming. According to Smith's chilling testimony, those parties were never as innocent as they seemed. Behind the grand halls, away from the cameras, there were rooms that guests could enter but not leave freely. Men in dark suits guarded the hallways, and hidden cameras captured everything. Diddy's private parties in Los Angeles, Miami, and New York were not simple gatherings of friends. They were traps designed to capture secrets, control reputations, and destroy anyone who dared to resist. Smith confessed that these events slowly turned from exciting celebrity nights into twisted nightmares where fear ruled and trust vanished. What made this revelation more horrifying was that Smith didn't realize the danger until it was too late. He thought he was just enjoying success alongside a powerful friend, but in reality, he was stepping into a web of manipulation that would haunt him for years. As this courtroom battle began, it was clear that their friendship had crumbled into something darker, a terrifying struggle for survival, respect, and truth. The email that changed everything. Will Smith's calm life began to unravel with one unexpected email. It arrived in 2015, sent from an address linked to Diddy's personal account. A strange message filled with words that made Smith's heart race. The message was short, but its meaning was clear and threatening. Will, this is the last chance I'm giving you for us to connect. Don't let things get complicated. At first glance, it seemed like an invitation to another Hollywood gathering. But Smith knew something was terribly wrong. There was a hidden warning behind those polite lines, a quiet threat dressed as friendship. This was not just a party invite. It was a reminder that someone was watching, keeping track of Smith's decisions. He had already started avoiding Diddy's private events after sensing their darkness, hoping to quietly step away without causing waves. But this email meant escape wasn't so simple. According to Smith's courtroom testimony, what followed was even more frightening. Another message came soon after, this time from an anonymous sender, with a short video attached. It was a shocking clip showing Smith himself, caught in a compromising situation at one of Diddy's parties. The worst part? Smith said he had no memory of the moment because he had been drugged, helpless, and unaware that cameras were capturing his every move. Standing in court, Smith's voice trembled as he recalled the fear that gripped him. He realized then that he was trapped, ensnared in a system built to destroy anyone who tried to escape. That video was meant as a silent weapon, a tool of control. From that moment on, Smith knew he was no longer free. The party that turned into a nightmare. Will Smith remembered clearly the night when everything changed. It was supposed to be just another birthday party at Diddy's grand mansion, a place where Hollywood's biggest names gathered under the shimmering lights. But this event felt different from the start. As Smith arrived, he noticed the driveway packed with black SUVs, guarded by men in dark suits. Security was unusually tight. Phones were taken away at the door, and guests were warned not to wander far from the main hall. Something about this party made Smith's instincts scream, but he forced a smile and stepped inside. The mansion was strange. Dim lights, mirrors lining the walls, soft music playing that didn't match the mood of celebration. Whispers floated through the air as if people knew secrets they dared not speak. And then Diddy appeared, grinning wide as if welcoming a close friend, but his words sent a chill down Smith's spine. "Will, you're part of the family now," Diddy said, as if it meant more than just friendship. With that, he led Smith into a private room at the back, one that no guest could enter freely. What Smith saw in that room would haunt him forever. Inside, celebrities, some too young to be there, were performing disturbing acts for the pleasure of wealthy spectators. Laughter, cruel smiles, and hidden cameras captured every second. Diddy stood nearby, watching with delight. Smith stood frozen, his mind racing, realizing that this was no party. It was a trap, a place where reputations could be destroyed in seconds. From that moment on, Smith knew he had stepped into a darkness far deeper than Hollywood gossip, and escape would not be easy. The invisible chains of power. From that terrifying night forward, Will Smith's life took a dark and silent turn. He thought that avoiding Diddy's parties and keeping his distance would set him free, but instead, the invisible grip tightened. Projects he had been promised were suddenly canceled without reason. Film roles vanished. Directors who once begged for his name on their scripts suddenly stopped calling. It felt like an unseen hand was erasing his career, punishing him for daring to step away. In the courtroom, Smith spoke softly but firmly. "Every time I said no to an invitation, something bad happened in my career. I couldn't explain it, but I felt it." The rumors started next. Online stories whispered that Will Smith was mentally unstable, that he was unfaithful, that he was secretly hiding his true self. None of these rumors were proven, but they spread like wildfire, damaging his image, costing him trust, and slowly isolating him. Smith realized the message was clear: obey or suffer. But the worst threat was yet to come. The video, the one secretly filmed while he was unconscious, was the real weapon. Smith said Diddy's people made sure he knew it existed and could be released at any moment. He feared not for his career alone, but for his family. "They told me if I didn't cooperate," Smith testified, "the video would reach the media, my fans, Jada, everyone." His voice cracked as he added, "I lived in fear every day that my whole life could collapse in an instant." These were not ordinary Hollywood games. This was real, personal, dangerous control, and Smith knew escape was nearly impossible. The nightmare extends to family. As if Will Smith's own suffering wasn't enough, the courtroom gasped when he revealed the most painful part of his story: how the nightmare reached his own son, Jaden. In 2013, Smith said, Diddy personally invited young Jaden to a private meeting. He claimed it was to discuss Jaden's rising music career, to help him break into the industry. Trusting his old friend and mentor, Smith encouraged Jaden to go, believing it could be a great opportunity for his son's future. But what happened next shook Smith to the core. Jaden returned from that meeting visibly disturbed. The boy who had been so full of energy, ambition, and dreams suddenly became quiet, withdrawn, and anxious. Smith questioned him again and again, desperate to understand, but Jaden refused to talk. Something terrible had happened, but fear locked his lips. In court, tears filled Will Smith's eyes as he remembered his son's changed behavior, his broken spirit. "He was never the same after that day," Smith whispered. "I knew something horrific had happened, but I was powerless." When Smith angrily confronted Diddy, demanding answers, he was reminded of the power that trapped him. Diddy had the videos, the evidence, the influence. He could destroy Smith's entire family with a single command. The threat was never spoken aloud. It didn't need to be. Smith understood the message perfectly. His silence was the price for his son's safety. This was not just black. The courtroom, shaken by truth. As Will Smith's testimony unfolded, the federal courtroom in New York became charged with unbearable tension. Every word he spoke felt like a heavy blow against the image of Diddy, the music mogul once celebrated as untouchable, now portrayed as a master manipulator. The jury leaned forward. Reporters clutched their pens. Even the judge seemed caught in the weight of Smith's accusations. But the most shocking moment came when Smith revealed that this nightmare of threats and fear was still alive, even after Diddy's arrest. Smith described how Diddy's powerful network of enforcers kept him trapped. Even when Diddy was in custody, his associates continued to send veiled warnings, letting Smith know that speaking out would bring consequences. Anonymous calls, threatening text messages from disposable phones, mysterious emails telling him to stay silent, or else. "They told me," Smith said, his voice breaking, "that if I ever opened my mouth in public, my family would pay. They would destroy Jaden. They would destroy me." At this, murmurs spread through the courtroom. No one had expected the terror to run this deep, this far. Smith then revealed shocking bank records, proof that in 2016, he wired $500,000 to a company believed to be a front for Diddy's operations. "It wasn't a loan," he explained. "It wasn't a gift. It was the price I paid to keep my family safe." This evidence left Diddy's legal team scrambling. The documents were real. The texts were real. And Will Smith, once the silent friend, was now the loudest voice in the room, exposing the darkest secrets of a Hollywood empire built on fear. Diddy's legal defense strikes back. As Will Smith's shocking revelations filled the courtroom, Diddy's high-powered legal team, led by the well-known attorney Benjamin Carter, wasted no time launching their counterattack. Carter stood confidently before the jury, his voice calm but firm, as he dismissed Smith's entire testimony as nothing more than a desperate act. According to Carter, Smith's story was a carefully crafted fiction designed to shift attention away from his own recent scandals, including the infamous slap incident at the 2022 Oscars that had tarnished his public image worldwide. Carter argued that there was no real evidence, no verified video recordings, no direct threats that could be traced back to Diddy himself. "My client," Carter declared, "never blackmailed Will Smith, nor did he harm his family in any way. These wild accusations have no foundation." He then presented emails and documents that showed friendly exchanges between Smith and Diddy as recently as 2012, including one where Smith thanked Diddy for supporting Jaden's music project. The defense used these documents to paint a picture of a normal business relationship, not the twisted nightmare Smith described. Diddy sat silently at the defendant's table, his face unreadable, but observers noticed his clenched fists and tight jaw. Was it anger? Fear? No one could tell. Meanwhile, the court was split. Was this the fall of a legend or the rise of a lie? Despite Carter's confident arguments, doubt lingered. The weight of Smith's words, the fear in his eyes, and the eerie consistency of his story refused to disappear. The battle was far from over, and Diddy's empire hung in the balance. The silent threat in the shadows. Even as Diddy's lawyers tried to dismiss Will Smith's claims, the courtroom couldn't ignore the chilling details that pointed to a much darker and organized force behind the scenes. Smith explained that this wasn't just Diddy acting alone. It was an entire system of silence and intimidation built over years. After Diddy's arrest, Smith hoped the threats would end, but they didn't. Instead, the warnings grew more frequent, more sinister. Anonymous calls at midnight, text messages from untraceable numbers, quiet hints that his family was being watched. "Every time I thought about speaking out," Smith confessed, "I'd get a text or a call, a reminder that they could destroy me and Jaden anytime they wanted." The prosecution then shocked the court with fresh evidence. Phone records showing dozens of messages sent to Smith between 2014 and 2019, all carrying veiled threats. "Stay quiet," one message read. "Your family deserves peace, don't they?" Another simply said, "Don't make us act." These messages didn't come from Diddy directly, but from burners, disposable phones used by people who never left a trail. Yet the FBI traced these devices back to people connected to Diddy's business empire. Then came the financial proof, $500,000 wired by Smith to a shadowy company linked to Diddy's inner circle. "It wasn't a payment," Smith said. "It was the price I paid for safety." His words filled the room with horror. For years, this system of control operated like an invisible prison, wrapping its chains around him and his family. And now, piece by piece, those chains were finally being exposed in the light of day. The price of silence. As Will Smith bravely laid bare the nightmare he had lived, the courtroom sat frozen, hanging on every word. But the horror deepened when Smith revealed the true price he paid to keep his family safe. It was not just the silent suffering or the canceled movie roles. It was the secret financial transactions that spoke volumes about the fear he carried for years. In 2016, Smith wired $500,000 to a company he now believed was a front set up by Diddy's circle. It wasn't a gift, it wasn't an investment. It was the cost of protecting Jaden and protecting my wife, my family, myself, Smith declared, his voice heavy with regret. This payment, prosecutors argued, was part of a grand extortion scheme, one designed not just to silence Smith, but to keep others in the industry quiet as well. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs as the evidence was displayed. The bank transfer, the names of shell companies linked to Diddy's business interests, and records from FBI investigations. All signs pointed toward a shadow network pulling strings behind the scenes. And yet, even after such a payment, peace never truly came. Smith confessed that he continued to live in fear long after the money was sent. The texts and calls kept arriving. Diddy's grip, though unseen, was everywhere. Smith lowered his head and whispered, "Even when he was arrested, I still looked over my shoulder, because the machine he built was still running, hunting, waiting." This chapter revealed the terrifying truth. In Hollywood's hidden world of power and control, the price of silence was more than money. It was years of fear, broken trust, and lost freedom. The unseen war behind the curtain. As the trial pressed forward, it became clear that this case was not only about two celebrities, it was a glimpse into an unseen war waged behind Hollywood's glamorous curtain. Will Smith spoke of shadowy forces at work, people paid to keep secrets buried, hackers hired to erase files, and enforcers sent to remind those who knew too much to stay silent. It was no longer just about Diddy and Smith. This was about a carefully guarded empire built on fear and manipulation. The prosecution stunned the court when they introduced testimony from a former hacker, once secretly hired by a security firm connected to Diddy's business. This witness confessed that his job was to destroy evidence stored on private servers, videos, emails, and documents that could ruin reputations if ever made public. Yet, despite these efforts, some files survived. These files, seized later by the FBI, confirmed what Smith had feared all along. He had been recorded at Diddy's events without his consent, caught in compromising moments he could not remember. Then came the leaked internal document from Bad Boy Entertainment itself, a guest list from Diddy's private parties. Will Smith's name was listed multiple times, marked with disturbing notes, "Requires monitoring," and "Priority confidentiality." This document didn't show crimes directly, but its dark message was undeniable. Smith had been watched, tracked, and managed for years, like a pawn in a larger game. As this evidence unfolded, the courtroom fell into heavy silence. The glittering world of Hollywood now seemed less like a land of dreams and more like a stage where dark deals, threats, and manipulation ruled from the shadows. Diddy's empire on the edge. With each new revelation, Diddy's image as the untouchable mogul of music and business began to crumble before the court and the watching world. His once glorious empire, built on fame, fortune, and influence, now stood on shaky ground. Those sitting in the courtroom could sense the shift. No matter how skilled Diddy's legal team was, the weight of the evidence, the cracks in his carefully crafted public mask, and Will Smith's fearless words were turning the tide against him. Observers noted Diddy's stiff posture, his clenched jaw, his deadpan stare at the floor. For a man known for confidence and control, this silence was deafening. But it was not just Diddy's silence that spoke volumes. It was his legal team's frantic effort to recover. Benjamin Carter fought back hard, accusing Will Smith of lying, of using old grudges to fabricate this scandal. Carter argued that all the evidence was coincidence, the emails were misunderstood, the payments unrelated. But no one could deny the trembling undercurrent in his defense, a quiet fear that maybe the fortress they built around Diddy was finally cracking. Meanwhile, prosecutors painted a grim picture. Diddy wasn't just a celebrity. He was the leader of a hidden machine, pulling strings far beyond the spotlight. Extortion, intimidation, secret recordings. This wasn't fantasy. It was real, backed by transactions, threats, and the fearful testimony of one of Hollywood's biggest stars. As the chapter ended that day in court, one question burned in every mind. Would this trial finally tear down the empire that had stood untouched for decades? Or would Diddy's power prove strong enough to survive even this storm? The secret recording that shook the court. Just when it seemed the trial had reached its peak, Will Smith's legal team unveiled the most devastating blow yet, a secret audio recording from 2018. The entire courtroom held its breath as prosecutors played the tape, verified by FBI audio experts to be Diddy's voice. On the recording, Diddy spoke in a low, threatening tone that sent chills down every spine. "You know what I'm capable of. Don't force me to expose everything. You want Jada and the kids to live in peace, don't you? Then behave." The silence in the room was absolute. Reporters froze mid-note, jurors exchanged stunned glances, and even Diddy's own lawyers shifted uncomfortably. This was not speculation. This was not rumor. This was proof. Proof that Diddy had made direct threats against Will Smith and his family. The defense scrambled to claim the recording could have been altered or faked, but the damage was done. The court believed what it had heard. But this was only part of the storm. Smith's team also revealed emails and text messages sent after Diddy's arrest, new warnings from unknown numbers demanding Smith's silence. These threats hinted at an entire network still protecting Diddy, even from behind bars. "This is not one man acting alone," Smith's attorney declared. "This is a machine designed to cover the truth and silence its victims." As the jury listened, the dark image of Diddy's empire grew clearer and more terrifying. What was once whispered gossip in Hollywood's back rooms was now undeniable fact in a federal court. And with this recording, the balance of power in the courtroom shifted forever. The crumbling of a legend. As the court absorbed the shocking recording and the mountain of evidence piled high, the once mighty image of Sean Diddy Combs began to shatter before the world's eyes. No longer was he the untouchable king of the music industry, the flawless mogul of fashion, media, and fame. Instead, he now appeared as a man trapped by his own web of control, deceit, and manipulation. Observers in the courtroom whispered that Diddy seemed smaller now, his shoulders hunched, his stare vacant, his legendary confidence drained. The fall of an empire was unfolding in real time. Even Diddy's own legal team struggled to contain the damage. Their arguments grew weaker, their confidence slipping with every new piece of evidence. Prosecutors unveiled an FBI report tracing payments from Diddy's companies to individuals linked to the threatening messages Smith had received. They even called a cybersecurity expert to the stand, a former hacker who confessed he had been paid to erase videos from secret servers, though he admitted some files had survived and were seized by federal agents. The darkest revelation came from an internal document leaked from Bad Boy Entertainment itself, a list of party guests marked with disturbing notes. Next to Will Smith's name were the words, "requires monitoring" and "priority confidentiality." It was the final proof that Smith had been under surveillance for years, his life watched and manipulated like a prisoner in a golden cage. As the day ended, everyone in that courtroom understood the same truth. Diddy's carefully built empire was collapsing, and in its ruins stood Will Smith, a broken man, but no longer a silent one. A battle that changed everything. As Will Smith stepped out of the courtroom on that final day, the world outside waited, holding its breath. Reporters swarmed, cameras flashed, and questions flew like arrows in every direction. But Smith said little. His face, exhausted yet firm, told a story louder than words. "I'm not doing this for myself," he finally said. "I'm doing this for my son, for my family, for everyone who's been hurt by this system." Then he got into his car and drove away, leaving the crowd stunned, silent, reflecting on the weight of what they had just witnessed. Inside the courtroom, Diddy sat frozen. No words, no gestures, just silence. His empire, once a fortress of wealth, fame, and unchallenged power, had been cracked open for all to see. The world now knew the secrets buried beneath the glamour, the pain behind the parties, the fear beneath the fame. The mighty had fallen, and Hollywood would never be the same. This trial wasn't just a battle between two giants. It was a war against a hidden machine of control that ruled the industry from the shadows. Will Smith's courage to speak had sparked a fire, one that could burn away the lies and expose the truth buried beneath decades of silence. But as the trial ends, one haunting question remains. How many more stars are trapped in this invisible prison, too afraid to speak? The story is far from over. Hollywood trembles, The world watches, and in this new chapter of truth, no one, not even the most powerful, is safe from justice.